The Detroit Red Wings have found a hidden gem, as one player in particular is absolutely ripping it up within the organization. We're going to break that down, as well as multiple other updates on the team from head coach Todd Mclellan ahead of a very crucial stretch of games for the Red Wings to determine playoff seeding. And if the Red Wings are even going to make the playoffs, we have the possibilities, the odds, all of that and more in this episode of Red Wings Digest. And let's get right into it. Mark, let's waste no more time. For those of you who aren't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You can stay up to date with everything that's going on with the Red Wings. But of course, who we're talking about down there in the AHL, not making too much noise at the NHL level yet, but man, oh man, is he going to. It's Michael Brandsegg-Nygård down there in the AHL, Grand Rapids Griffins. And of course, they're having a fantastic season, one of the best in the AHL of all time, Mark. But what do you make of his season, what he's doing recently? 5 goals in his last 5 games for the prospect, 23 shots on goal. He is feeling it, and that's just a feel-good story within the organization that they may have a bit of a hidden gem down there waiting, and nobody's really talking about him.
I think the big thing is looking over that 5-game stretch. That's incredible numbers. 5 goals in 5 games in any league is hard to do, but going further into his stats, a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be drafted higher than he did is coming through with an incredible full year in the AHL. Of course, had a stint with the Red Wings this season as well, but looking at his numbers all the way back from playing the SHL and the Swedish league, this is a gamer, a guy that's come through in every aspect of his game, and you can kind of see the draft guide here, and it says, is a gamer. This guy goes in, he's holding his own. He can go out with most nights, he can compete against anyone, seeking out contact, and is always connected. This is the type of guy you want in your system. Is this guy going to join this team and become a 100-point player? There's a chance he could, yes, but looking further through, at the 15th overall pick, a guy that's produced at every single level, 13 goals in 47 games this year, 31 points over the span. This is an incredible start, and of course, like you said, Grand Rapids is the best team in the AHL, and a team that's looking at setting historic numbers from their goaltending, the win totals, everything in between. But this is a guy, even going back to the draft, people had him ranked, of course, 12th over 15th. It's still a big jump when you're moving up, but this is a guy that plays even bigger. He scores at nearly a half a point a game in the SHL, one of the strongest men's league in the world. Darius, this feels like the type of guy that's going to continue to progress. And looking at the lineup, we're going to dive into some changes and stuff later as well. It feels like when you have a lot of guys like Evander Kane and James Van Riemsdyk coming out of this lineup as they get older, the segue feels almost perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, well, Evander Kane is on the move at this year's trade deadline. I don't think it's to the Red Wings, but Patrick Kane, of course, on that right wing. And if you draw your attention to the right wing, a lot of those guys are getting older, right? And Mason Appleton, he's not necessarily a top 6 winger. So to know that you have a guy coming through the system here that could possibly play that role for you coming up here soon is great. And as you said, you look at the AHL numbers, about a half a point a game player. Those are good numbers in the AHL, definitely figuring out the league. The SHL is a great men's league, but to come over to North America, it's a different game. It's more physical. And the one thing that we really haven't mentioned about the player yet, that a lot of people do mention when talking about his game, he throws, for his size, thunderous hits. He does not shy away from the physical side of the game. He likes to get involved physically, throw the body around, get to the front of the net, stuff like that, and he can put the puck in the back of the net. And again, at just 6'1", 205 pounds at this point, or roughly between 205 and 210. Sometimes these are not updated, but somewhere in that area. He's not the biggest guy. He's not 6'5" or anything like that, but he's going to come in and do his thing. So I'm really excited to see how he continues to progress, how he continues to develop. I'm not saying to call him up now. I'm definitely not saying that, but as you move into the future, MBN could be a good replacement on the right wing for a guy like Patrick Kane as he gets older. We don't know what's happening with JVR. Mason Appleton, I wouldn't have him in the top 6, right? Could he play top 6 minutes? Maybe, but I wouldn't have him in the top 6. So to see you got a guy like this in the minors coming through, got a bit of a hidden gem there that I think you're in good hands for. And especially with the salary cap structure the way it is, the Red Wings are going to have a lot of space to not just add this year, but next year as well if they remain competitive. Now, a couple other updates as well. Carter Bear, we touched on him a couple videos ago as well. Mark, what do you make of him? Because he's having another fantastic season. He's another guy that's going to come up and make a splash at some point too. And he's been rumored to be included in some trade scenarios. I don't think I would include him in any trade scenario at this point. I think this is the type of prospect you want to hang on to as well, because he is going to make an impact when he eventually makes the NHL as well.
And I think this is the perfect guy that you kind of keep. You're looking at a team that, of course, they have a lot of young talent that we've went through. There's a lot of aging guys, but you have this elite prospect pool that's coming through with Beer and other guys as well. So I think it just shows that this is a team that's not only competing this year, but you have the next year and years after with the young guys getting into their 20s. A lot of these players, including Carter Beer, is not even 20 years old yet, where they're going to take the next step, Darius. And once again, I think it just shows how bright the future is between guys in the AHL, overseas, in the juniors, over in college. Every level, it feels like the Detroit Red Wings have a player within their organization that is playing elite hockey at this point.
Yeah, and it's not just, the current state of the team, like you said, that's exciting and could make the playoffs this year. It is the future, right? Like, this organization looks like they're in very good hands in terms of some of the prospects coming up through the system. But speaking of the now, speaking of the current, we have a couple updates. Of course, the Red Wings back in action after a very spirited bout against the Ottawa Senators, and obviously Dylan Larkin with 2 goals in that one, the overtime winner. That was great. And you can see this from Todd Mclellan. Cam Talbot will actually start in this game tonight at the time of this video coming out, of course, on Saturday. It's his first start since January 22nd. He has not played in over a month at this point. Of course, they are away at the Olympics, but he hasn't played in over a month, and he's offered some interesting minutes to the Red Wings this year. Obviously, John Gibson has been the guy, the rock for this team, but Cam Talbot has an opportunity to come in tonight and give them a quality start, because these games mean so much more at this point, Mark, with the Red Wings, because I want to get to some of the possibilities. I want to get to some of the odds of making the playoffs. It's a lot worse than people realize. They have a tall task ahead of them, especially with schedule strength compared to other teams in the Atlantic Division as well. And you're not necessarily chasing too many teams. You're just in a tight race right now with Buffalo, with Montreal, with even Boston. And you have to continue to win games. And Cam Talbot is tasked with that tonight.
And I think the big thing with Cam Talbot, listen, John Gibson is the starting goaltender. We've seen it everywhere he's been in his life. We've seen it with the Anaheim Ducks. We're seeing it with Detroit, where he's going out and getting shutouts. It feels like every other game on the road. But Cam Talbot, of course, is a veteran goaltender that knows what it takes to win within this league. He's been around for quite some time. It's the perfect stopover gap where you have John Gibson. Cam Talbot, of course, is probably going to either sign a cheap extension to be kind of a bounce back between a 2A or a 2B next season. But I like Cam Talbot in the sense he knows what it does and what it takes within this league and organization to get some wins. So you give John Gibson the night off. Of course, Costa should jump straight into this lineup going into next season. So I don't love the fact that, of course, you're going against a team like the Minnesota Wild with Cam Talbot between the pipes. But at the end of the day, you can't run John Gibson 82 games. And I think it's just a well-rested break for him, especially with a lot of tough games coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you can't run him into the ground. And I do want to get into some odds now in terms of possibility of making the playoffs. You can see this. They only have a 65% chance at this point, the Red Wings. And of course, when you look at the Sabres, who are in the 90 percentiles, you look at other teams like the Montreal Canadiens, you might be looking at this like, how, if they're in a better, position right now? Well, it's based on schedule strength and a bunch of other things going down the stretch. And obviously you got to save John Gibson a little bit. He's going to be playing some tough hockey here. So they're in a little bit tougher than people realize. Like, it is not guaranteed at this point that they make the playoffs at just 65%. But at the same time, I think a lot of people do trust that they're going to find their game and find that physical edge as well. And that's what I want to end off on here, that, Simon Edvinsson talked about how him and JVR went to a Detroit Pistons game, and, they were playing with an edge. And obviously Detroit and the Pistons have found themselves in a couple physical altercations in the NBA this year, which has been interesting to watch. And he said we should have a little bit more of this in our game. We know what happened last game against Brady Tkachuk as well, with Edvinsson and all of that. So he's trying to add some snarl to his game, a little bit more of that. And a lot of people, we see you guys down there in the comments talk about it as well, Mark. The Red Wings need a little bit more of that in their game, and they're not going to find that via trade, but they could find a very big piece via trade heading into next week's trade deadline. If you want to hear more about that, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything going on with the Red Wings.